Hey guys, glad to have the Slurry lather in my repertoire today because I'm going to need it to be relatively fast, but not fast enough to where, like lately, I was trying to set any records or be in a rush. So here we go. As usual for Austere August, we have the Zenith B35 boar brush. He's been soaking for, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Timeless 68 gap open comb stainless steel razor. It's already got the Nacet blade in it. The Nacet has had 522 uses. The scent on all three items today is Chiseled Face Midnight Stag, and that's the soap, splash, and cologne. The soap is near death. It'll finish the month, no problem. And you know, we probably got another few weeks on this, but it's this is the most I've seen a soap ever happen, because that's just one of the problems with a large collection is you don't kill soaps very often. And the smell has largely gone from this. It's kind of an older, as you saw from the label, this is an older version of the tub, and so it's on the older side. A hint, just a tiny hint of the awesomeness of Stag is still available. Get my face a little wet. And then, Slurry lather fashion, I'm going to shake out kind of the water that would drip out anyway, but leave it still quite wet. And then let's do, since this is kind of dry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swirls, and let's just see how that ends up. I was doing, why do I have the bowl? It's just habit. How about that? I was doing the speed shaves, and also before that I was using the soap after it had sat all day uncovered, and so it had had a chance to dry out. And so that caused me to kind of have to revisit how many swirls I was doing, because since this method is so wet, which is doing great because you can see the nice little slurry that I've got going on now. Since the method is so wet, it leaves a lot of water in the soap. And so I switched strategies to just test it out. I'm going to show you the blade now. The Nacet was already loaded from the previous shave here with the markings that it has on it. Just because I'm using it so many times, I like to show you guys. And I saw one commenter recently say, it was kind of broken English, but I think he was saying, what's up with that Nacet M? Because in my description, in the title of the video, as well as the text description of the video, it talks about the Nacet, and then the M is in parentheses. And what that means is I have other Nacets that I shave with. I started shaving with this Nacet back in 2018, and it's just kind of a scientific test to see how many uses I can get out of it. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to shave with any other Nacet blades until I come up with the answer for this one, right? And so I call this one Nacet M for marathon, and the other ones are just standard Nacet. It's all the same blade. And then what happens is, with those other ones, without the designation of M, those are ones that I just choose whenever I want to replace them. Usually it's around 15 or 20 uses. Now see, those 6 swirls that I did, we don't have a ton of lather here. Now it's going to be enough to get 3 passes done, but it was a fairly dry soap puck. So it looks like when it's dry, I'm going to need to do more than 6. That might be a nice fun experiment to do. And that kind of matches what I was experiencing during my speed shave attempts. I would do about 6 swirls. And then I would have enough lather to get the speed shave done, but that was because I wasn't really trying to like enjoy the lather or anything, or even work it up into maturity. I was just trying to quickly get to something that was going to be shaveable. So now, this is what's left. Let's just, you know what, it's going to be super wet, and so if I do extract it from the brush, it's probably just going to run down my arm. So let's just kind of apply it with the brush. We just need to lay down a thin layer. Yep, see, look how wet that is. And so that didn't pick up quite enough soap to deal with the amount of water that I had in the brush to start out with. So what do? There's only 2 things you can do. Start with less water or load more soap. So I think I'm going to let my soap kind of dry out before the next shave, and we'll reevaluate. Obviously do more than 6 swirls. I think when I was doing MDC, Martin de Condre, as my Austere August shave soap a couple of years ago, something like maybe 7 swirls, 7 to 10 swirls, I think was where I landed. And like maybe 7 would work, but 10 gave me some margin, and I enjoyed having that margin. Or maybe 5 was what worked at the very basic level, but then 7 was what gave me that margin. You know, something like that. But that was loading with a drier brush. Not a dry brush, but a lightly wet brush instead of a very wet brush. And so it left behind some water in the soap, but not a whole lot. And a good final rinse at the end. I'm going to clean out my brush now. The splash here that we have for Midnight Stag, it does have glycerin and some other, like witch hazel, you know, some other items in there. And so it does make my hands a little slippery. And so my advice is I always clean my brush before I use that. That way it's easier to hold the brush as I'm rinsing and cleaning. A quick strop on the towel after a good rinse. And all the standing water is now gone from the brush. And so it can sit on its base to dry. You can put it in a hanger if you want, but that just serves to kind of mar up the handle, in my opinion, and it's not needed at all. That's a myth that you see still floating around even to this day. And so if you choose to have a razor rack or stand, a brush stand, if you choose that, then it's just purely for cosmetic, visual purposes and decoration purposes, and not the need for actually a brush to dry upside down. It's not necessary. And if your brush is, when you hang it up, if it's so wet that you feel like you need to have it drip, then it's too wet and you need to work it on a towel for a little bit, because that's so wet that you could potentially get some mildew or something like that. You don't want to leave a brush that wet after your shave. And as always, every once in a while, who knows, maybe once a year, I like to remind people, never put a wet brush at the end of the shave or the razor in like a medicine cabinet or any kind of enclosed space, because it needs that air, right, to not go moldy and stuff. And the razor needs that air as well to help with prevention of corrosion, especially if it's a non-premium material razor like pot metal and that sort of thing. All right, so now I am going to vent the razor, rigorously run water through it, shake. Now he's ready to store. And then the chiseled face, Midnight Stag splash. I like the balms, and I definitely started out using balms more than splashes when I first started with this hobby. But I tell you, the splashes have a great benefit. They will last forever because they're alcohol based and they don't deteriorate. They don't go bad. They may lose their scent, or maybe, probably not, but they don't go bad like balms, because balms don't have that alcohol in there to protect them. And here is the fragrance. Balms can definitely go bad in, I had one go bad in a year and a half, something like that. I used it, but just not super regularly. I think maybe I used a quarter of it up, but it wasn't fast enough because I had too many post-shave products, you know, and I was using witch hazel sometimes. I was using splashes like this sometimes, and even though I liked that particular balm, it was Cella, and I liked it a lot. I liked the generic kind of fragrance that it had. It went bad because it just has a shelf life. I haven't had any others go bad. Wait, I did have a sterling one, but it was really old, and it finally did go bad. And that is the shave today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care now. Good night.